It's 2018 and Ducati has brought the revamped Monster 821 to the dealerships. This motorcycle had to be discontinued when the Euro 4 emission norms came into place, and the first thing that you would notice on the new bike is the large double barrel exhausts, making it Euro 4 compliant. The second major change is the full color TFT dash. It looks really premium and has a lot of features built into it, which I've already discussed on my previous video. To my delight, the Brembo M50 calipers with the dual 320mm discs up front were present on this bike as well. I had loved them on the Street Triple RS, and on this bike they performed phenomenally as well. The shortened wheelbase of 1480mm along with the trellis frame makes this bike super agile, but at the same time with a lot of front end feel for cornering. Ducati has done a series of smaller changes to this motorcycle. The newly sculpted tank looks really good, but functionally it's carrying 1 liter less of fuel, which I'm not really a big fan of. The seat has been redesigned and it also comes with a detachable seat cowl so that you can also accommodate a pillion rider. The DRLs are now LED, but the main headlight still isn't. There is a new design for the foot pegs from the previous version. Sadly, the 43mm upside down front forks are non-adjustable, though the yellow colored rear monoshock is. Speaking of yellow, that is one of the new colorways for the 2018 Ducati Monster 821, and it's making a comeback after almost 2 decades. The other 2 color options are black and red. But enough talk about the specs, it's time to put it to the test, and I hope you guys will join me for the ride along discussion. And before we start, I recently hit 80,000 subscribers, so thanks to all of those who supported, and if you're new here, I would ask you to join the family, so hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon for future video notifications. Now let's get started with the review.
We saw 172 kilometers on the Odo. That was full throttle in touring mode. Let's test the flickability. It's pretty good. I ran out that corner. I wanted to shift up and take a smooth corner through first gear, but that didn't happen because couldn't shift up. Let's see how good the brakes are. Oh, they're good. They're really, really good. Like I said, the brakes are great. It's a super bright early morning at 5:30 a.m. It's already pretty hot because it's middle of May, and we're starting up on the newly launched Ducati Monster 821, courtesy of Ducati Mohan Motors, Kolkata. The moment you let go of the clutch, this bike's like jumping ahead. This is quite different compared to the 797 Monster. The seat height feels higher. It's adjustable, right? It's right from a very low 785 all the way up to 810 millimeters. I believe we are on 810 millimeters right now because I feel quite high perched up, and it's much like the sport riding position. The handlebars are low. They're very low. I would say they're much lower than the Street Triple, and definitely lower than the Monster 797 as far as I remember. It's pretty aggressive for a naked bike. The riding position did surprise me a little bit, but do remember that when you raise your seat height higher, then your handlebars feel relatively lower because your body kind of leans forward. So this is the stock exhaust, and there's going to be some options available to you from Ducati itself by Akrapovic, and those are going to be pretty expensive, but they do make your sound a lot better. If you choose the dealerships provided aftermarket exhaust, then your warranty doesn't get affected, and your motorcycle generally comes with a 2-year warranty. The display color just changed because it has detected that there's more light now, But if you are kind of like one of those guys who wants extended warranty, Ducati is offering a 2 years extended warranty from the dealership itself, and that would be valid pan India. So you get total 4 years of warranty if you sign up for the Ducati extended warranty service. I remember riding the Z900, and that bike feels entirely different. This one is like a lot of pep in the low and mid range, and remember, we are riding in the lowest power mode possible, and even there you feel kind of like a single cylinder sort of a feel because it is the lowest power. It doesn't feel much different than my Duke in the low power mode, which is in the urban riding mode. We have the lowest engine power. I find that to be a very enjoyable riding experience because in urban areas you're not really going beyond 5,000 6,000 rpm when you're riding such a big bike, and having access to the power all the way up there doesn't really feel very exciting, which was there in the Z900. I mean, I kept revving that bike up in the city. I got a pretty good response in the higher RPMs, but that's not the proper way to ride within the city. This one, however, within the city, it just feels that much more eager to your throttle response. Oh man, I just switched the power mode. And it just said closed throttle, and then it applied the new engine mapping, and then it was whoa man, the difference that is felt from the urban mode to the touring mode is quite a lot. The engine sound, do you hear that difference? I mean, what would this do in the sport mode? Give it a bit of gas and you'd be surprised how powerful this bike feels. It's 180 kgs dry. I'd say around a couple of 100 kgs wet. And so it's not one of those super light bikes actually in this segment, because I've had the experience with the Triumph Street Triple, and I believe that's a bit lighter. I'm not sure. I'll put it on screen right now. But you know, while you're on the bike, because of this trellis frame, I've seen that on the previous Ducatis I've ridden, they really feel lighter than they actually are. An accident, well, that's unfortunate. The other thing I was talking about is the power. It's 109 horsepower in the full power mode, right? That's the sport mode. It's 109 horsepower delivered at 9,250 rpm. 86 newton meters of torque is a big number. It's delivered at a relatively low 7,750 rpm as far as I remember, and and you can feel that most of that 86 newton meters of torque, you don't have to go to 7,000 rpm to access it. It's there even in like 3,500 4,000 rpm, and that is one reason why Ducatis feel so good to ride. And I mean, we're not even in the full power mode yet. You know, the jerk on the upshift is kind of making me believe that this motorcycle can wheelie if you're not careful. If you're a beginner rider, you would obviously not want to play around with the throttle too much, and you'd like to be on the lower RPM. Now when you're riding an inline 4 motorcycle like the Z900 or an inline 3 Street Triple S, you don't really feel that it's that powerful in the lower RPM. So if you're a beginner rider, you have very little access to power in the lower RPMs, so you kind of can cool it. But with this kind of a motorcycle, it's so powerful in the lower revs, it can wheelie up. So if you're a beginner rider, in the urban mode you'd be quite fine, but the rest of the two modes, you know, the front end being light, it feels even more powerful than the Super Sport, which has a bigger engine, by the way. But power wise, this isn't a slouch. It's 109 horsepower, like I said before, so that's gonna be more than enough. When you're comparing this with the Street Triple S, which is coming in at 10 lakhs, and this is 11.37 lakhs on road. These are all on road prices, Kolkata, I believe. So tracking through a corner feels really good. Now this is just at 70 kilometers per hour. I'm 100% sure this bike can do a lot better. Ergonomics, like I said, it's aggressive. I'm leaning down on the tank, and the foot pegs are aggressive as well. They're kind of rare set, which is, I loved it on the corners. Maybe not so much on some commutes, but you know, this is a very sporty bike. And I've seen one thing with sport bikes, full-fared sport bike sales falling, motorcycles are becoming more and more aggressive on the naked trim, because a lot of people are preferring these naked bikes. They're still more comfortable than any clip-on handlebar motorcycle could ever be, and they're kind of offering you that track focused performance, which is like the Street Triple RS is a naked bike which is very much track focused. Now this one's running Pirelli's Rosso 3 tires. I've not ridden on these tires before. So far so good, but you know, this isn't properly a test. Let's give it some gas. Whoa, it kind of flew. The suspension's pretty hard, like I said before, and it kind of skips and hops over bumps. This is a very powerful motorcycle. It builds power in a completely different way than the Z900, and this one actually makes you feel that you're going fast because of the Z900's 4-cylinder. And it's such a mute bike in the stock form. You don't really feel that you've hit over 140 kilometers, and that's exactly what happened with me here. But this time here on this motorcycle, the power delivery, it makes you feel it. So not only are you going fast, you actually have a good idea of how fast you're going. So in that one way it's good, because you know how fast you're going, so you'd be within your limits. In another way, because those bikes feel so easy to ride, because you don't really feel the speed, they are actually easier to ride. The gearbox is a bit harder than the other Ducatis that I've ridden. My Ducati has been very butter smooth gearbox. This one on the upshifts has been really smooth. I've not really felt it. By the way guys, this does have an optional quick shifter. It doesn't come standard with the motorcycle, but they do have an up and down quick shifter, which means even your downshifts can be automated, and the upshifts work above 4000 rpm, so it's very usable within the city. I'm guessing from the Ducati Super Sports up and down quick shifter, I think that can be fitted in this one as well. And it's not very expensive. I believe it was around 17,000 rupees, so it's something that you can always buy and install later on when you feel like that. Downshifts on this bike been a bit harder than the upshifts. I mean, I won't really complain about it, but Ducati is usually, you know, you can't even feel that gearbox. It's so buttery smooth. There's just a little bit of a glitch that I'm feeling, but maybe this is just a new bike, you know, it's not been broken in yet. It's fairly new. I believe we have done very few kilometers. I believe this time we got it. Now I can't do 150 and all that, you see the roads ending, so I believe we got the perfect 0 to 100 this time. So we just tested out the 0 to 100 speeds, and right now we're starting up, and it's the sport mode, so I want you to pay close attention to the engine sound. Now it sounds like a Ducati. Early morning, you know, when we started out, it was quite muted, but listen to this bike right now. It's got that trademark Ducati snarl. Set the DTC to 2. By the way, it has an 8-way dynamic traction control and 3-way ABS along with 3 power modes. Now all of that can be used in combination to each other because it has 3 riding modes, and suppose the sport mode is dynamic traction 3, power to high, and ABS only to the front wheel. So if you want, you can customize that. Suppose you want dynamic traction 2, like I've said it, and ABS to 2, but I want the full power in the sport mode. I can do that. I can change up the touring and the urban modes as well. So the 3 riding modes are kind of going to let you customize and tune it to your preferences. I really like that. The display, as I was going through this, it has a lot of settings in the main menu which you can access by hard pressing or long pressing the enter button, and short press of the enter button gets you into the mode selection. And selecting the modes is also very easy. You scroll it up, you press the enter button, and then you close the throttle. If you don't close the throttle, it lets you that warning that close the throttle, so that we can change the mode, and it changes internally. Now we're in the touring mode right now. I'm gonna switch it back to sport mode. I've switched it back to sport, and I have not closed the throttle, so it's saying close throttle, and the moment I let go of the throttle, it now switches to sport mode, and you can see how aggressive it went, and just the same amount of throttle input got a better response. So the power modes are definitely not a gimmick. They make a huge difference on this bike, especially since the front end is so light. You feel that even more than you would on a normal motorcycle. Let's just keep on the normal highway, and that road is closed, by the way. What? There's something weird. I'm not. The gear shifts kind of hard on this bike. I don't know why. That's only on the first gear to second gear I am facing this issue. Apart from that, I've not been able to find any issues with this motorcycle. We were doing a lot of like slow runs and stuff like that. The bike didn't heat up that much. I can't really go fast here, guys, because we've got a lot of intersections. Now see how I moved from the 3rd to 4th and there was no issues with it, but when I'm moving from just the 1st to 2nd gear, sometimes it is hitting a false neutral. I haven't really had the chance to corner with this bike, so I think what we should be doing is taking this bike for some corners. Brakes. Dual 320 millimeters Brembo discs with 4 piston calipers. Amazing feeling on the brakes, same as the Monster 797. Brembo's going for that progressive feel kind of things. If you like that sort of braking where there's a lot of initial bite, you might miss it a bit, but the brakes are really good. Like they've somehow tuned the initial bite to a little less, so that the braking feel is not that jerky. It is coming in smoothly and progressively, which is good if you like that sort of braking, especially for track. I think that's going to be very important. And one of the best things about riding Ducati, I would say this is better than the Z900 in brakes department by a big margin, because on the Z900 the ABS kind of kicks in quickly, which is not there on this bike. And when you're comparing it with the Street Triple RS, which I've also ridden, that bike has amazing stopping power, and I think this one is just neck and neck. I think it's the same here on this bike with the Street Triple RS. Now the Street Triple RS on the highway is a very much enjoyable bike, and on the higher RPMs I do believe that the RS will feel a bit better than this. But this one, however, on the urban riding, on the absolute power delivery from right from the word go, that Ducati mid-range is going to be felt when you're not exactly on a freeway speed, and that I feel will give the Street Triple RS a good competition when you're on a tight and twisty track, because I've already had some impressions of the chassis. This one's going to be very nimble, and the Street Triple RS, that bike's a work of art. It's the best naked motorcycle that I've ridden, and I'm not going to change that right now riding this motorcycle, because obviously I haven't taken this bike to the highway, so I cannot really conclude my conclusions right on this trip. But yeah, it is amazing, and the power delivery is obviously different. The RS feels more manic on the higher RPMs. This one feels more manic on the lower RPMs. But this by any means is not a slow bike. 109 horsepower, but feels a lot faster than it is actually, because all of that power is available to you at the lower rev range. This bike has a very meaty rev range, not one of those peaky inline fours. I would say I like it more than the Z900, but the Z900 is more comfortable. Always remember that. So why I recommended Rohan to buy the Z900 was he already owns a Ducati 959 Panigale, so I wanted his second bike to be a bit more tour worthy, to be a bit more, you know, less aggressive, so that he can take it out in the city and just chill on that bike. So that kind of an approach is always there for the Z900. But if I want to see one motorcycle that does it all, I would rather pick this one or the Triple RS. So it's gonna be very interesting if we get to compare these two bikes side by side on an open road. So third gear doing 93, you know, 100 kilometers cruising is nothing for this bike, because that can be even done by a Duke 390. So on this bike, 100 kilometers cruising is just like, you know, you walk in the park, that sort of thing. I think the cruising speed for this kind of motorcycle is around 150 kilometers per hour, believe it or not. I've done a Z900 run, so I know what I'm talking about. That is the kind of motorcycle that stays at 150, 160 kilometers per hour. And the clutch, well, the clutch is kind of a bit on the harder side, so probably not a slip assist clutch on this one, but I don't really know, have to figure that one out. I still don't have a quick shifter. I have that confirmed. Now you do see that since you are underneath that bridge, or this is actually a train station, so since you're underneath it, the display turned to black, and now when we go out it's gonna turn white again. Voila. And obviously the power is so instantaneous, and we were doing on a fourth gear, we tried out some of the speed, and you know, due to the torque, even roll on acceleration, even when you're doing like right now with lowered power, like right now it's 60, you give it full gas and immediately starts pulling, so you don't really need to shift up and down that much. That's always there, and I like that. It was there on the Z900 as well. Glad that I found that on the Ducati. What the heck? That wasn't a proper launch, like I just blitzed past. Okay, corner coming up. I really didn't get the speed there. Okay, we're here so that we can see how this bike, in urban corners, you know, even the low speed, this bike gets good amount of lean angles. I mean, I was hardly 40 kilometers per hour. Great grip from the tires. I like the rounded profile on the tires. That's amazing. This is why I came here, so that I could show you what this bike does. At least not on the highway corners, but at least I can show you about these roundabouts, how it's done, how it feels to ride a Ducati, and what is that thing that you'd enjoy. Here we go again. Love the way this motorcycle handles in corners. It's really enjoyable. Okay, here's the talk about vibration. It does have a little bit of vibration, especially in the sport mode, but it's more like you feel that the engine's there, rather than you feel discomfort. So I want you to understand that. It's very much livable, but it's never going to be as smooth as an inline 4. So I guess people buy Ducati for that character. So if you like that sort of stuff, this is the engine you like. And if you don't like that sort of stuff, well, then Ducati is not for you. So we're almost about to end our ride here, and I'm seriously impressed with the Ducati. It's got a good amount of low-end grunt, lots of torque, lots of power, and usable power at the lower rev range. Meaty rev range as well. You don't need to shift up and down that much. When you do get the chance to open the throttle, it's an absolute beast. Downsides doesn't really have any apart from the harder gearbox. Pricing wise, yeah, it's a bit expensive. I'd like to give you a pricing analysis. The Street Triple S, which costs 10 lakhs on road, doesn't have all this electronics. It has basic traction control and it has ABS, but it also has ride-by-wire and all that, but it doesn't have this 8-way dynamic traction control, 3-way ABS on that full TFT display. So that's 10 lakhs. You're paying 1.5 lakhs more for you're getting a better electronics package. The power is about the same, 109 and 110, similar power. Obviously power delivery is different because that's a triple cylinder and this is a twin, and this is better in the low and mid range. That's going to be better on the higher rev ranges. So if you're on a straight, you're going to love that bike. If you're on a twisties, you're going to love this bike, but better electronics on this. However, there is the Triumph Street Triple RS, which is even 1 lakh more than this bike, 12.5 lakh rupees, and that TFT display, full ABS traction control and everything. It has Brembo M50 brakes. It has got that Pirelli Diablo Super Corsa tires, which is not there even on the 959 Panigale. Panigale is using Rosso Corsa, whereas the Street Triple RS is using Super Corsa. So you're getting a lot more kit on that motorcycle, and it's an absolute beast. I mean, the power delivery, it's got 10 bhp more power as well. I believe it's lighter as well, and this bike's kind of balanced between the Triumph Street Triple S and the Triumph Street Triple RS. A very balanced option. Looks wise, I'd go with this. There is just something about owning a Ducati. Ownership costs, I'm not really sure. Ducatis are expensive, but Triumphs aren't exactly cheap either. So I don't have the mileage figures. Don't ask me. I'd try to find out. I'd put it on screen. Oh yeah, the stand is super hard to find. I mean, you can see it, but it's hard to reach because of it kind of interferes with the foot peg. So that's one small little thing if you don't like, and one small negative to end the review. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. See you very, very soon. This is Rahul. Goodbye.